Welcome to the Purple Positivity Podcast for April the 27th, 2018. I'm your host, the amazingly adorable Rebecca Thistle, podcasting to you live-ish from my kitchen/dining room table in my apartment, which I call Jeffrey Thistlework. Yes! So, despite how that sort of sounds, I'm not feeling it this morning. Not gonna lie. I woke up. I don't work on Mondays or Fridays, so, but in despite that, that's an awesome word, in despite that, I still make myself get up between 4 a.m. and 5 a.m. and, get up and do the podcast and essentially work, but it's not really work because I love it. I should call it getting shit done. But, in any event, I woke up this morning just, I don't quite know how to explain it. Like, my stomach hurts. And I feel like this weight on my shoulders and my chest. And, and it's not just, the pain and soreness that comes from doing the job that I do. Because you wouldn't think that assembling pens would wreak havoc on your shoulders, but it does. And your wrist. Oh my gosh, my right wrist. Please. I know how this is going to sound. Please don't go there. But my right wrist is killing me. Oh. So, anyways. So I'm not feeling it, but, and so I didn't know what I was going to talk about, and then I started talking and discarded a couple of shows. Cried a little bit on them, so sorry you missed that. Now I know what I want to talk about. So I have been listening to, I've mentioned this a couple of times here in the past week or so, I've been re-listening to this audiobook called You Are a Badass, and I want to finish it and make some notes because I'd really like to do at least one show about the book. But there's so much in there that it's just so awesome that it may be a series of shows. I haven't decided yet, but I want to finish the book first. So, anyways, all the chapters start out with a quote, and one of the chapters started out with a quote, and I don't remember who said it. But it's one of those things that you hear it and you instinctively know that it is one of the most true things that you've ever heard in your life. And I may be fucking it up a little bit here, but the quote goes something like this. We cannot discover new lands without first losing sight of the shore. Or something to that effect. We cannot chart new territories. Becca, come on. We cannot chart new territories? Something like that. But we cannot discover new lands without losing sight of the shore. And, and I feel like that's such an apt metaphor for life, the universe, and everything, but especially in this moment in my life. Because I have a friend who's going through a situation similar to what I went through a few years ago. And that's not my story to tell, so I don't really want to get into it. But suffice to say, it's a very similar situation, and so it's caused me to pause and reflect on where I was a few years back. And when I was in that situation, and how scary it was to change that. And, and in the time since, all the shit storms that I have been through, And so I got to thinking about, I had to leave behind what I knew, what was familiar. There's this saying, better the devil you know than the devil you don't. It's scary. It's like, if you're living in a toxic situation, you're like, I can't handle this. But somehow you'd rather handle a situation that you're familiar with than attempt to create a new situation that you don't know how to navigate at all. And it's scary to push off and lose sight of what you know, of what you understand. And, you know, and obviously the metaphor is, you know, like, kind of comes from this, you know, like, the 16th century explorer mentality. And, you know, so I got to thinking about it. This idea of, you know, these men, primarily, obviously, would sail off in these boats and they lose sight of everything they knew, what was familiar, what, you know, wasn't necessarily perfect, but they knew it. They knew how to navigate it. They knew where everything was. Well, maybe not everything, but everything they needed. They knew where to get it and how to get it and when they could get it and how long it would take, etc., etc., etc. Or they could at least guess at all that. And then they drift in this ocean for months on end with nothing concrete in sight before finally they, you know, land ho. And that's how I feel. I feel like I left behind that situation and I've just been floating in open water for years. And I can kind of sort of see something off in the distance, but I don't know how far away it is. And I don't know when I'll get there. I don't know how I'll get there. And it's terrifying. But there was another thing that was in this You Are a Badass book that stuck with me. And again, I'm paraphrasing. But Jen Sincero, who wrote You Are a Badass, which, read the book. Oh my gosh, it's so good. But Jen says, you don't have to know when it's going to happen or how it's going to happen. You just have to know that it's going to happen. And that's just been ringing in my head. You know, and so I woke up this morning not feeling it at all. No clue what I wanted to talk about on this show. I don't even know what I'm going to do today. Well, I think I have a vague idea because I need to load up my buffer queue, so be prepared for some pretty badass stuff coming up on my social media feeds. But you know, it's as hopeless as I felt when I woke up. All I have to know is that it's not hopeless, that things will work out. I was talking to a friend of mine last night, and she was asking me about the situation with my son and Child Protective Services and all this. And she said something like, I'm pretty sure it's all going to work out. And I stopped her. I said, no, it is going to work out. I don't know how. I don't know when. I just know that it is going to work out. So none of this pretty sure bullshit, none of this probably nonsense. It is going to work out. And she kind of stopped, and I went, oh fuck, I think I, made her feel bad. But if she's listening to this, I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to be mean. I was saying that mostly for myself. I just have to know that it's gonna happen, that things are gonna work out. I don't have to know how. I don't know how. I don't have to know when. And And I'm sharing this on this show because that's what I do, and also because it's Friday morning and I have nothing better to do today. Well, actually, I probably have a ton of things that are better to do, but nothing that makes me happy. Nothing makes me more happy than talking. That's kind of sad. Actually, it's not really. But you know, I'm really hoping that somebody's listening to this who's feeling like I am, just, you know, totally adrift in this ocean of uncertainty and doubt and no clue where you're going, or even if where you're going is going to be the greatest place in the world, or, you know, what's going to happen there. You don't know how good or bad it's going to be. You know, but it's going to be okay. You know, you don't have to know how or when or what is going to happen exactly. Life isn't scripted, just like this show isn't scripted. But you gotta believe, you know? It's just that simple. I know that things are gonna work out. I know that I'm gonna get my kid back. I know that I'm gonna get out of Abilene and I'm gonna move on to a better life. I know that it's going to be hard along the way, but I know that in the end, this is all just going to be something I look back on and go, wow, look how far I've come, you know? And I think keeping that bird's eye perspective in mind, keeping that idea of having, again, it's a callback to past shows from this month, the benediction of hindsight. You know, I think that's the only thing that's getting me through the hard times. And the moments where I just want to crawl back into, well, not back into bed, because I don't have a bed. I have a little pallet on the floor, but, you know, crawl back under the covers and curl up in a ball and go, oh, I just want to die, you know, which is not a healthy way of thinking. But instead saying, you know what, let me be real. And let me just take it a step at a time, 10 seconds at a time. I also think I may do a series of shows about, like, lessons from Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, because that's another thing that has been really helpful and therapeutic to me, is watching that show and going, alrighty then, you know? I just added a profile for my all caps someone on my Netflix, and I told him, I said, you've got to watch Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. It's just, she's so awesome. I don't know if he has, like, I hope he has, because it's a really good show. And